Okay, so welcome back. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are based on your time zone. So we will get started with the week 4 material. So far we have finished 3 weeks of the material of this particular course. Now we'll get into week 4. If you remember from the very beginning, every week has a certain topic. So for this week, the topic is on looking at the bans, so the plastic bans, and including we'll spend some time on China's policy, the China short policy, which is called, is essentially they also called green fencing. Some places you will hear green fencing, some places they call it China short policy. Essentially it is that Chinese government has restricted the import of certain types of waste which was coming earlier to China for processing and recycling and all that. They have put more restriction on it. They want cleaner material. They don't want dirty material coming from other countries to China. So that ban has implication on other countries too, like not only in China, it's an implication on US, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, many European countries which were earlier sending their waste after sorting to China for processing and recycling. The reason they were going to China, the reason the waste comes to developing countries is where most of the production is happening in developing country today. The developed countries are mostly becoming a service-based industry. They don't produce products like a low type of products. Whatever product they make is very high-end product. Sophisticated analytical instruments, they will make arms, and they will make all those fighter jets and all that. But in terms of regular product that we use in our houses, you go to any mall today, you will find mostly a lot of products from China coming in, and that's the reason why the waste was going to China at the first place. But China had put certain restrictions. So we'll talk about how this Chinese restriction on import of plastic waste is going to actually have a huge impact on plastic waste management on global scale, because earlier China was kind of a sink, but now it is no more there. So how the waste needs to be managed, and that also means that part of that waste may end up in country like in India. So because China is not taking it, they will try to send it to India. Now India doesn't have similar policy yet, so that will get a lot of contaminated plastics coming to India. So we are struggling with plastics in the country, and at the same time we may see an increase of plastic coming from other countries in India. That will be a lot of that is a lot of concern for us in terms of management of plastic, because we are still struggling to manage our own plastic waste. So we'll talk about all that. We'll talk about some of the details, the bans that has happened. So this is what we'll cover in this week. This is the topic of this week, looking at the ban, looking at the impact of China's policy in terms of the big picture impact on global plastic waste management. So when we talk about ban, if you remember, there is not a blanket ban on plastic as such. The ban is mostly, we are focusing on ban on lightweight plastic bags. So the focus is mostly on lightweight plastic bags, where the less than 40 microns. Now we are talking about 50 microns. So the bigger like a size is okay, but although they also have risk, but something which was single use, film plastic, thin plastic, that creates a lot of nuisance in the environment. So that was we are trying to phase it out from our use. So the way it has worked in a global scale, there has been two strategies that has been implemented. One strategy is, when we try to phase out the lightweight plastic bag, one strategy was to charge certain money. So you they will charge you some money for those plastic bags. So when they charge money, there is a tendency that you don't want to spend money on that plastic bag. So you will think that, okay, next time when I go to the mall, when I go to the grocery store, I will carry my own bag. So if you're carrying your own bag, then that plastic waste is reduced because you're not using newer plastic bags. So that is when you start charging, and the charge could be from sometimes it would be even in like paisa or in cents, or it can be a few rupees. And as you know, some stores do charge money. Like when you go to Big Bazaar, they will charge you money for giving you that bag. Although that bag is not single use, you can use it multiple times because that's a thicker plastic. and that's not less than 40 microns. But still they do charge, and then so you can bring your own bag to Big Bazaar. You don't have to use their bag. So that's those kind of, or other stores similar to Big Bazaar as well, like in Indian context. So there is a charge. So that's which kind of I would say gives an incentive to the consumer to use less plastic because you have to pay extra money for it. Well, we think like why you should pay for that. And the other approach that has been used is of banning it, that we will not let it sold in that particular segment and that type of plastic. And if anybody does that, there has to be enforcement in place. So the charge strategy is all of the same. It has helped in plastic bags reduction as a plastic bag ban, with the additional benefit of creating a new revenue source. So when you ban, you are actually not creating any revenue source, but when you charge, you are also creating a revenue source, and then gradually your plastic usage will come down because people will not like to pay. And if the people like to pay, you can look at your system, and then you can also start charging more. So say for first year you charge 1 rupee per bag, and for the next after 6 months you increase it to 1.5 or 2 or 3 or similarly 5, and then you will see that gradually there will be a reduction in plastic usage. So that's and at the same time we have to really provide the alternatives, because unless there is a cheaper similar alternatives available, it's very difficult to phase out plastic, because it's such a convenient material, which I've been telling you for again and again in different module over last 3 weeks. So it's a plastic bag charge method also protects the consumer choice, which the ban does not, because many times when you ban something, we humans have a tendency of always being I would say that we always like to revolt. It's an inherent nature that if you try to force something, there is with an equal force there is an equal opposite force. So similarly, when you try to force something down on the population, there is also a revolt. There is kind of, they want it. They don't want that. So they want it kind of there will be always a resentment in the society to some extent. Some people who will understand the reason, probably not, but in general there will be a resentment. But when you start charging money, the resentment is relatively less, because they will say if you want you can take it, but you have to pay this much. So and then gradually that also helps. So that's kind of those two approaches has been used. Some approach, and it depends on how good your system is. Some of the authoritarian countries, we'll talk about. I think I will towards in the middle of this module we'll look at a video which talks about Rwanda. A part of it talks about Rwanda, which is one of the cleanest country in Africa, and which is an authoritarian government. So the enforcement is very strong, and they have banned plastic for quite some time, and it is working there. But same thing working in an Indian scenario may not really, because we are a democracy with lots of like inherent issues that we have in terms of implementation of different policies and laws and regulations. So things what works in one country will work in India, it may not. So it depends on how within India also what works in one state may not work in another state. Depends on the demographics and the way the people live in there, and the cultural and the other history, the behavioral and other history associated from the past. So if you look at from a historical point of view, Bangladesh is the first country in the world to implement a ban on plastic bag, and that was long back in 2002, after they found that these plastic bags were choking their stormwater drainage system, and which caused a lot of flooding in the cities. So 2002, when Bangladesh thought about banning plastic bags, so that was when they were started working on it. From an Indian context, Sikkim was the first state in India to which is a plastic bag free status. So again, they managed to get it. There was a lot of I would say public consultation. People in general wants to keep the state very clean. It's a tourist destinations as well. So it depends. So that Sikkim right now is plastic bag free status. So it's the first in India. and other when we look at the other states, we always try to follow Sikkim's example in Indian context. In last year, during the World Environment Day, our Prime Minister announced that India will abolish all single-use plastic by 2022. So, which is just now 3 years away, like slightly less than 3 years away. So, if we take January 1, 2022, which is the start of 2022, so we will be 2 years and 11 months around away from that. So, where we have to, if that's the country has decided to do it, so the country is trying to work towards that goal, and as you can, we'll have these slides with you so you can read that. But what essentially it talks about is that plastic is becoming a major issue, so we have to look at the plastic waste management and come up with alternatives to that, stop plastic pollution and make a planet a better place to live. So, and it talks about the environmental issues affect the poor more than it affects the richer people. So, we make sure that material prosperity does not compromise our environment. So, those things were highlighted by our Prime Minister during his speech made on the World Environment Day from Vigyan Bhavan in Delhi. And we got some international community took it very positively, that India being one of the biggest country in the world population wise, and we have if India comes up, if we can really achieve it, it will be a big help to the environment. And of course, it requires the political motivation, and but the real challenge comes in getting it implemented, the practicality aspect, which we'll be talking about in this lecture. So, when we try to remove this single-use plastic, because as you know, single-use plastic is being used very, very extensively. So, when we are trying to remove it, we need to have proper alternative. So, and then there has to be a behavior change, and there is what is needed is actually the behavior. It's if not preferences. So, we have to outright ban in many places does not really work out many places because more citizens think that they have a moral right to make the decision. So that's becomes a problem. A law becomes very difficult to enforce if it cues behavior in an opposite direction of what is normally followed. So, that's stated by Mr. Kaushik Basu in the Down to Earth magazine. So, it's as I was saying, the first problem with the ban is enforcement. So, when the current usually what happens is you will have a lot of media attention and other stuff, the laws will come in and things will you will see a lot of activities happening on ground for a month or so, and once the media attention dies down, again you will things will come back. And that is happening. For those of you who are in states or cities which has plastic ban, you yourself may have witnessed, and if you have not, do some survey and you will see that once that the media hype and all the hype associated with goes away, when all those glare and the photo and other things have been taken care of, gradually you see things kind of coming back into the system. Because there are places where plastic has been banned for a long time, but still if you go to there, you will see plastics there. Recently, Airport Authority of India announced that certain airports are plastic free. I myself, when visited certain airports, I did find a lot of plastics is still being there. So, it's not that plastic free. So, yeah, they were trying to reduce the usage of plastic, but when you go for ban, and especially without an alternative program to how the things will be taken care of, the ban does not really work very effectively on the ground, unless you have a dictatorship or something where there is a lot of fear and huge penalty, and that's because it's still, see, if you compare this to municipal solid waste situation as well, the rule suggests that we need to have a collection fee, but it's still hardly any ULB, very few ULB in the country is able to collect the waste disposal free from the houses. So, that's why there is always an issue associated with this kind of regulation. So, we need to come up with alternatives. That's what and then change the behavior. Those are very important, and that's how we will be able to take care of this plastic, lessen the plastic usage. So again, as I said, Airport Authority, just on 7th of January of 2019, Airport Authority of India banned single-use plastic from 16 of its airports have been declared single-use plastic free. But around 14th or 15th of January, when I was visiting through one of those airport, it was still had plastic. So I don't have to name that airport, but so it is there. So so announcement is different thing, and real implementation on the ground is way different. We have already announced that certain states are open defecation free, but many states, as the results are showing, that they are actually not open defecation free. So so those things has to be looked at from an implementation point of view. So for example, Srinagar Airport among 20 declared plastic free by Airport Authority of India. So we have been, hopefully it is getting implemented. This is again came on January 15th. So, but you have to provide alternatives, because plastic, as you will see in some of the later slide, it is so much convenient to use. So it becomes very difficult to really get rid of it. For certain applications, certain usage, we don't have alternatives right now. So the focus should be on developing proper alternatives, so that we can get rid of plastic and use some other material. Just simple example, our toothpaste or a toothbrush in the morning. So if you in the morning, the toothbrush, most of the toothbrushes are plastics today. So what is the alternative? If we don't use that plastic toothbrush, what else we can use? I don't know. If there have been recently, I saw on one particular website, they were trying to sell these organic toothbrush, which is essentially what in our village we used to call it datun or datwan, which is you take one particular tree, you take thin branches of the tree and you cut it down and use it as for your brushing in the morning, and you can also use as a tongue cleaner part of it. And neem tree is very popular for those application. But say entire country, entire India or entire China, entire world decides to that, okay, we'll not use plastic toothbrush and we'll use that organic that one thing. I don't know how many trees we need to, how many branches we need to cut. So those are the practical issues. So we have to really think about that too. So this particular website, I think it was on one of the in UK or US somewhere, and they were trying to sell the whole 1 month package. So 30 organic toothbrush. So basically 30 that one, very nicely nice shape. They put even a sharpener at the front. So they make it a little bit look sophisticated, packaged really nicely, but it is the same material which gets sold at our railway station in Kharagpur in the morning if you go there. And there in Kharagpur station, probably he will charge you 5 rupees. I don't know, I haven't bought it, maybe probably less, much less than that. But this they were charging for 30 pack, the charge was $15 or 15 euros. So think about that. If it's $1, it's around 70 rupees right now. So 35. So for 30 of them, you are paying for 2 days. You are paying $1. So for $15 for a month's packet. So it's a 35 rupees for one of that organic datwa, and your good plastic your toothbrush will probably come, which will last for 3 months. So there is an economic side to it as well. So it's better to be green. It's always, but there has, again, I keep on saying again and again that we have to provide cheaper, greener alternative. Then only these bans and the usage of plastic will go down over the years and over the decades. So Mumbai is one of the prominent city in India which banned plastic. I think in 2018, almost maybe a year ago. So Maharashtra government, they banned it, imposed a ban on manufacture, use, sale and distribution and storage of all plastic material across the state. And Mumbai is, of course, gets the news because that's the biggest city in Maharashtra and also one of the biggest city in India. So plastic items that are banned, and once so you can, all kinds of plastic bags with or without handle, garbage bags are also banned. All one-time use plastic, disposable items made of plastics and thermocol, cutlery plates and bowls, plastic seats are wrap and store products, plastic pouches, non-woven polypropylene bags, a cross between paper and cloth bag, disposable plastic containers used for takeaway, PET bottles containing soft drinks, mineral water, etc., and with carrying capacity of less than 500 ml. So that's a huge list of material that has been banned from in Maharashtra. So now this was banned in June of 2018. So I would those of you, the students who are from Mumbai or from Maharashtra, I would really be interested to know that you tell me that whether all these bans are still working. And if the bans are still working, please use the discussion forum and put those comments in there. And if the bans are still working, what are the alternatives people are using? So we can learn from that, and we can use it in the other parts of our country. So there may be certain innovations may have happened where people are using different material, and there are innovations are coming. Some of those bags which are coming into the market to replace this plastic bags, they have cloth at the outside, but they also have a thin plastic in the inside, so that those bags are not really plastic free. In fact, they have very thin layer of plastic, so when these bags will be disposed into the environment, we will have those plastics again coming to the environment as well. So they look to be clean, they look to be better, and they can be used multiple times for sure. So there is a slight improvement definitely, but that's not, we are not replacing plastic altogether. And in fact, the thin layer of plastic there could be more dangerous than the other plastic bags that we had earlier. Similarly, when you go for these paper cups for coffee or tea and other stuff, you look at the cup very carefully, there is a very thin layer of plastic inside. Because otherwise the paper cannot hold liquid. Paper cannot hold say water or coffee or tea. So it requires a layer there which keeps the paper not exposed to the liquid. Otherwise paper will start getting soggy, and then things will crumble down. You just take a glass of water and put it in a paper bag, and you see what happens. So that's the reason why there is still a plastic is there. So whenever we are replacing this plastic, what are the new products? Are they really plastic free, or it is just a greenwashing that is happening? There may be a slight benefit, but there might also be that we are creating a different kind of problem, down the line. So that those things needs to be looked from a systems perspective when we are looking at these bans. Some exempted was the plastic cover, plastic material used at manufacturing, plastic used for medicines, solid waste management, agricultural products, so those are exempted. Compostable plastic material used for nurseries, horticultural and agricultural. Again, most of these compostable plastic bags do not really degrade. That's the problem what we have seen from even when we were working in some compost plant in Canada. We had some of these compostable bags which was coming into the garbage stream, municipal solid waste stream, because people are using this compostable bag as a garbage bag. And those bags were being sold as a compostable bag, so people will put their food waste or organic waste in there, and then the whole bag will come to the compost plant. What we saw is even after 2-3 rounds of going through the composting process, we still had the plastic pieces there. So it does not really degrade. Theoretically, it will degrade but it requires a very heavy duty composting system, which is not typically found. So if you are trying to use a plastic bags, even some of those chips bag which claims themselves to be a 100% organic and you can compost it, and you want to use it in your home composter, it's not going to work. If you want to use it in a city municipal composter, it will work, but then you have to recycle that bag through the system maybe a few times, then probably you will see it's finally getting degraded. So it's again, they claim it to be compostable, but most of it is not really compostable in true sense. Theoretically yes, but practically there are issues associated with that. Milk bags and plastic bottles, they are used in packaged water industries. So milk bags have been, for example, Amul bag and all that bags have been, because again, how to package them. And bottles will have to be recycled by collecting them back, else consumer have to pay a nominal fee to the shopkeeper. The penalty, for the first offense, if you don't, the 5,000 rupees, then 10,000, and then 25,000 for third offense within a 3-month jail term. So it's pretty strong, very strong rules there. But let's look at what is the impact of this ban on what is people are talking about this ban in Maharashtra, because that's what what is the reaction in public, especially in the markets in terms of this particular ban, and what needs to be done to really make this ban work. So let's look at that video in.
It's been 2 weeks since the no plastics rule came into effect in Maharashtra. Some store owners have also had to shell out a fine because of the use of plastic bags. But are there enough viable alternatives to this omnipresent product? Are the alternatives viable? Let's find out in one of the largest markets here in the heart of Mumbai, the Dadar market.
कस्टमर आता है तो बोलता है पार्सल चाहिए और प्लस पार्सल ये मांगता है और इसे पीने के लिए ज़्यादा क्या प्लास्टिक में मांगता है, कांच गिलास में नहीं उसको मांगता है. इसके लिए बहुत असर पड़ता है अपने को.
तो अभी हम लोग को 10 किलो 20 किलो बेचना रहता था, तो क्या बोलते हैं 10-20 किलो अलग थैली देना पड़ता था. अभी थैली नहीं, इसकी वजह से नुकसान हो रहा है हम लोग को.
स्टॉक है वो ख़त्म कर रहे हैं, उसके बाद अभी क्या नया आता है वो देखना पड़ेगा. मेन हमारा 20-30% प्लास्टिक पार्सल का बिजनेस रहता है. जैसे टोटल बंद करेंगे तो उनका अल्टरनेटिव दूसरा कुछ है ही नहीं देने के लिए. कस्टमर को बोलना पड़ेगा आप डब्बा लेके आओ, हम उसको भर के दे देंगे.
Shopkeepers are trying to use the 3-month window to use up all their existing plastic inventory. Some others are still searching for a viable, cost-effective alternative to plastic.
पेपर देगा तो फट जाता है, गीला मच्छी रहता नहीं है. ये ऐसा भरेगा ना हम लोग मच्छी, गीला हो जाता है. फिर क्या करेगा, सब गिरता है हमारा मच्छी. बोलता है वो हमको नहीं मांगता है, फिर रख के जाता है.
पर प्लास्टिक बैग हम लोग को 10 रुपीज़ में 50 पीस मिलता था, ये हम लोग को 100 रुपीज़ में 50 पीस मिल रहा है. ये हम लोग को कुछ मायने ही नहीं रखता है. देखो ना, इट्स अ वेस्टेज. और इसमें मटन देके किसी को हम लोग डाल के, कभी कोई मतलब गिर गया किसी का मटन तो फिर उसका भी लॉस है, ये हम लोग का भी लॉस है. ये मतलब नहीं है थैली यूज़ करके.
यानी अभी इसमें अलग अलग चीज़ें हैं, जैसे पाव किलो पैकिंग, आधा किलो पैकिंग, 1 किलो पैकिंग, सबका जैसी क्वांटिटी रहती है उसके हिसाब से साइज़ मिलती है बाज़ार में. अभी बारिश अगर शुरू होगी तो वी आर गोइंग टू हैव अ बिग प्रॉब्लम.
Plastic manufacturers are clearly unhappy with the ban.
40-50% तो एकदम लॉस हो गया बिजनेस.
खारी है, नान खटाई है, काफ़ी आइटम है वो हम प्लास्टिक के बिना पैक ही नहीं कर सकते. बोले उसको तो तुरंत हवा लग जाती है चीज़ को.
प्लास्टिक नहीं होता तो पेपर का कंजम्पशन बढ़ जाता. जब पेपर का कंजम्पशन बढ़ जाएगा तो झाड़ ऑटोमेटिक कटेगा, जंगल नष्ट हो जाएगा.
The good intent behind the move may have lost some of its fervor, partly because there aren't enough alternatives and also because there's still some lethargy in the system to move towards a cleaner and greener society. This is Purva Chitnis for Bloomberg Quint.
So as you saw, it's in the video they were looking at the different aspect related to the plastic usage and ban which is being enforced in Maharashtra state. So putting like a paper bag, the lady was talking about how to put fish in there. The gentleman, he was talking about that its plastic bag, that cloth bag is very fragile. It's not strong enough to hold, for example, certain kgs of meat. So when if it falls down, it's a problem for the customer, it's a problem for the shop owner, and at the same time those paper bags, putting all those grains and other stuff in paper bags for now, but what will happen during those Mumbai rains or during the rainy season, how it will, whether it will be, whether they can use it or they have to use something else. So there are practical issues associated with that. That's the reason, see, no one has, we don't really want to use plastic just because of the sake of it. We are using plastic because it's so convenient to use it for all these different stuff you saw. When the beginning of the video you saw in the background all those different type of utensils, bathroom items, your buckets, mugs, all those different stuffs are made from plastic, and they are and since it's so convenient, but those are mostly our HDPE, LDPE and those kind of plastic. So what we are trying to ban is that single-use plastic, which is actually the bag part, mostly the bags, and then some of the cutlery sets and other stuff, which is a single-use, not the multiple-use ones. So there are the ban makes sense to a certain extent, especially for this single-use plastic. The ban does make sense, but at the same time, the ban also, because if you don't ban, you will have, as you can see on this particular picture right on the on your screen, you will have these kind of scenarios where variety of plastics will end up, and if you look very carefully, many of these are single-use plastics or single-use plastic materials which end up in the atmosphere, in our environment. Recently, there was every now and then we hear that more and more plastic in the ocean, more and more plastic in the surface water. Just a couple of weeks back, we saw that there was a in a beach in West Indies area where most of is like a beach around 5 miles area of that beach. Little bit away from the beach, when they went into the water, they saw almost in an area of 5 miles or 5 square miles, lots and lots of plastics, and which was not discovered earlier. So we are seeing lots of plastic in our water in existing places. We already know about the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. We also know about certain other garbage patches, which we'll talk about, and it's happening. You go around in the city, in the country, in our country, in India, you will find many of the water bodies have this kind of scenario what you see in my background. So we really need to clean it up. So getting rid of the single-use plastic will be of a help. But what I'm suggesting is we need to look at in a little bit broader perspective, that just banning may work for few years or maybe a few months, and then when people doesn't find alternative, people will come back to the same plastic. So we have to come up with an alternative, and the alternative may be given some subsidy actually to start with. So let's look at some of these where we talk about these alternatives and some of the global issues. So we'll talk about this, we'll look at this particular, again a small video, and then we'll close this module. So let's have a look at this is a small video, and we'll discuss it for a minute, and then we'll close this.
On March 15th, the Maharashtra state passed a proposal banning the use, sale and manufacture of all disposable plastic items. The state generates close to 500,000 tons of plastic waste every year. Such bans are not new. In 2006, for instance, the Maharashtra government banned plastic bags thinner than 50 microns after it was found that they had clogged the city's stormwater drains and compounded the 2005 flood crisis. But the implementation of the rule was shoddy, with many people not even aware of its existence. So will this ban be any different? Activists say that this time an important clause has been added, which could be the game changer. In the earlier case, the manufacturer and supplier attracted penalty for breaking the law. What's different now is that the consumer is also liable to pay if caught using plastic. First-time offenders will be fined 5,000 rupees, which could escalate to up to 25,000 rupees if caught a third time. Consumers will be charged an additional 1 rupee for a mineral water bottle and 50 paise for a milk packet, which can be reimbursed if returned. Packaging used in medicines, garbage disposal and nurseries has been exempted from the ban. There are some caveats, however. The ban does not include packaged plastic used in retail products, which, according to the 2016 notification on plastic waste management rules, had put the onus of collecting back the plastic waste generated by its products on retail brands. The country generates 15,000 tons of plastic waste every day, of which 6,000 tons remains uncollected. Experts also feel that it won't be enough to put in place a ban without providing for alternatives to plastic.
Even in Delhi, we've had such a ban that was imposed, but so far it's not been successful. We have banned carry bags a few months back, but then there are no alternatives which have been made available in the market, and nor are these alternatives cheap. If we talk about jute bag or we talk about cloth bags, then they come at a huge cost. So what about some areas? I mean, they won't go in for a costly jute bag or a cloth bag, For them, the cheaper resort is probably a plastic bag. So I feel that these bans would only be successful if we bring in some cheaper alternatives, or for some months these alternatives should be available at subsidized rates so that it becomes a habit.
Behavioral change is another challenge. In Mumbai, for example, the BMC's attempts to segregate waste at source has not proven successful. Then there's the question of implementation. Even though the bill empowers a range of government officials to enforce the ban, it will be difficult to police a city with 18 million residents, leave alone a state. Karnataka, where a similar ban has been in place for the past 2 years, has only seen a marginal dip in the total plastic waste output. But blanket bans on plastic bags do work, as is the case in countries like Rwanda, the cleanest country in Africa. But the reason there could be the stringent enforcement under an authoritarian government. Plastic manufacturers in Maharashtra believe that the ban will give a raw deal to the 4 lakh workers employed by the industry. So while it will take a lot more than just a ban to fix the problem, it is a step in the right direction.
So as you saw that again, whatever we have been discussing kind of reiterated in that particular video, that we have to provide a cheaper alternative and maybe subsidized alternative for a while. And at the same time, there have been bans have been tried earlier, but it has not worked. But there has been certain, this time, since the consumer is also going to be fined, so there is a little bit different than what we have seen previously. But again, it's the implementation part which will be always under how we are going to implement this particular policy. And the cheaper alternative, and at the same time you saw one new aspect which we have not talked about in this video yet, is on what is the impact of this ban on the people working in the plastic industry. So what will happen to those people, their jobs? So it's, see, we have to look at what I say, we have to look at the things from a systems perspective. So there are social aspect, there is economic aspect, there is environmental aspect. So we have to look at the whole scenario while thinking about coming up with a solution to this plastic waste management problem, rather than taking just one step, which may sounds like a good step, but it has a lot of ramifications in the other areas. So those areas needs to be considered as well. So with this, that's the food for thought for you to after this video. So think about that, and then we'll continue our discussion in the next video. Again, if you have your own experiences regarding this plastic waste ban from whichever state you come from India, please put it on the discussion forum. It will be nice to learn from each other, and do take the weekly quizzes on time. We are also, you have the weekly reading material which includes this set of slides as well as several other material. Every week we'll have a folder for the reading materials as well. So go over those, any questions on the discussion forum, and I look forward to seeing you again in the next video. Thank you.